Hello, Dinks. It is Wednesday. It's Hump Day. It's almost June. I am so stoked for tonight. JB got us a really cool guest, and I'm just interested to hear everything about what he has to say. He's kind of led a couple of different lives, one as a dentist, one as an NFL referee, and it's just really cool. One as an NFL player who actually participated in a Super Bowl event. So I'm really excited about that. So stick around, Dinks. But as you know, we are the dentists in the know. As you see, your two favorites are up tonight because Chad took his family to Italy. Jeez, I can't believe he had the gall to do that. But anyway, we are your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. We are live, and we're over a cocktail as always. And tonight's a Viognier kind of night, JB.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Little Davis family. By the way, if you ever get out to Napa and Sonoma, this is on the Sonoma side. Davis Family Vineyards. It's in Healdsburg. Highly recommend it. I mean, you know, it's not like this great big tour that you go on or anything, but just really high quality wine. And you can see the love that family puts into all of it, and just an amazing experience. So that's one that I will put on my recommendation list. But anyway, as you know, we are here every week with you guys. Our job is to bring you honest information, just talk about some fun stuff. Always, we're live. We're over a cocktail. Whatever comes out, comes out. And we are all business owners. We are all dentists. And our job is to bring all of you. I forgot to say we are all educators too, which we are.
Yeah.
And our main job really is to bring all of you in the know. So, Chad, I hate you. Enjoy Italy. I really don't hate you. You know we love you, brother. I hope you're enjoying Italy with the family. Well, we hate you a little bit. That's right. But anyway, JB and I got this one. JB, do you have some news for us tonight? Because I'm really kind of stoked about our guest tonight. I mean, it's, you know, it's not often that we get to hear about dentists that early in their career get to fulfill, you know, different wishes and wants in their life. And this is a guy who's really done so much in such a short time. Yeah. And so I'm excited to hear from him. So thanks for getting him on. But why don't you give us some news and we'll get to him in a minute.
You got it. I would love to. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little tired of doing the dental cyber attacks, and yet the hits keep coming. Another large DSO group went down this week. MCNA maybe impacted over 9 million patients, sent out a notice on May 26th that they had a cyber attack as well. This is on the heels of both Great Expressions and Aspen Dental. So over the last 6 weeks, if we're all being very honest, dental practices, large DSOs, have not been doing a great job of keeping security in check. Also on the heels of the ADA cyber attack just earlier this year as well. So, you know, we continue to say, you know, it feels like a daunting task, quite frankly, as a small independent operation to be able to keep your data secure when a lot of these larger groups are unable to do that. But on the flip side, maybe the vulnerability is less. I do think the more employees you have who potentially open crappy emails or do things on the computer, you know, not maliciously, but, you know, open a link or do whatever, end up putting the practice in vulnerability. And so, you know, we had a practice pretty close to us that actually had a cyber attack. It was the patient had come in, hopped up on their free Wi-Fi, which also happened to be the same Wi-Fi that the Itera was using for their connectivity as well. And so patient hopped on in the waiting room, was doing a little work, virus was on that computer, that laptop, it hopped across the Wi-Fi, hit all of the scanners in the practice and knocked them out. And so just another PSA, if you have a public Wi-Fi or a guest Wi-Fi, make sure it's not the same Wi-Fi that you're using for your intraoral scanners or any of your other technologies in the practice. Because if someone comes in with a virus or malware on their laptop, it very likely can hop across and grab your system as well. So we keep ours locked down. If it's any of our stuff, we have a separate Wi-Fi that's not accessible to the public, and we have our free Wi-Fi published for them and their use only. Another really kind of fun story for the week. There was a Wheel of Fortune episode that came out on Memorial Day. I don't know if you were watching, Jeff, since you were sitting at home with your potbelly pig in the rain, but there was an episode that was a Star Wars themed episode that featured a dentist who came on, who actually solved the final puzzle and won some major cash for the night. So that was kind of cool. Dr. Jeff Powell of Sherwood Dental out of Arkansas won a big prize. It doesn't disclose how much he won, but won a big prize out of Wheel of Fortune on the Memorial Day episode. So that's kind of fun to see dentists out in the wild, you know, doing like normal things that other people.
Yeah, they are in their natural habitat.
Right. All right. The last thing that I think is important to note is that as the debt ceiling is starting to be negotiated in Congress to come up with terms for how they're going to manage moving forward with financing the government expenses, I think it's of importance to note that likely in passing the debt ceiling, the ceasement of student loan repayment programs will end. So is that a double negative? The ceasement will end. It means that student loan repayments that have been on hold since COVID, that will end as of the approval of the debt ceiling package. So that's housed inside there. That's a pretty big chunk of change that they're hoping will go back into the student loan repayment programs, but certainly does kind of bring up some interesting discussion about what that will do to the economy when all of that money is being shifted back to student loan repayment and away from the gross GDP, I guess you could say, of consumer spending. But that is something we should be watching. That certainly impacts a good number of viewers and dentists alike. If they've been in a pause during the COVID time period, it looks like that will probably come to an end. I don't know what that means overall for Biden's student loan program of wanting to eradicate the debt for a certain level or income level for individuals, but you know, we'll be watching all that. But I do think it does warrant noting. And with that, that's the news.
Well, JB, I also had a question because this came up in, it actually came up in our feed on Facebook. So getting some inquiries about the employee retention tax credits. So maybe that's something that we can add to next week.
Sure. And I can at least speak on that very quickly. So
that would be great because it would be very timely because we've had some inquiries about
dentists are absolutely eligible for the employee retention credit. So if you have not filed or haven't discussed that with your accountant, the original advice that came out and was the original advice from our accountant as well is that dentists would not qualify. There were some changes that occurred in 2022 that then meant that dentists running their practices during COVID would qualify for the employee retention credit. The biggest caveat I would say is that there's a lot of scams out there right now with employee retention credit accounting firms specific to that, basically wanting to process this. And let me give you a little insight. So let's just say on average, a general practice might be eligible for $60,000 to $80,000 of an employee retention credit back. So that would be cash back to you for keeping employees employed during the COVID pandemic. There is a percentage that most of the firms are going to take from that particular allotment. I've seen anywhere from 10 to 15%. Certainly, if it's any higher than that, you should scratch your head and look around. I would just tell you, so we filed for it back in summer of 2022. I haven't seen the money yet. I haven't even seen the signature of paperwork. We sent our first batch in and it got lost. And now we're on our second batch, where I would definitely recommend you do certified mail, be able to track your document package to the IRS. But there are legitimate companies. It's still going to cost a percentage. They're going to make $10,000 to $15,000 likely from each individual that they're working this for. So they do have a financial incentive to do so. But either talk to your accountants. It sounds like the ADA had also published a few individuals that they had sleuthed out that you should not be working for. So go to the ADA website. Even if you're not a member, I think you can search the employment retention credit and find out who those individuals are. They had sent out a warning a couple months ago, which we did report on, about employee retention credit fraud. And then if it's coming from your bank, it would seem like it's more likely to be legitimate, and that these are individuals that they've seen be successful at obtaining that credit back for their clients. So the particular person that posted actually was a classmate of mine and Mike's. He was asking specifically about a local bank here who had made the recommendation. I do think it warrants investigating. I will tell you there is a time limit though on filing. So certainly if that's something you want to pursue, probably should get to looking at the requirements for the documents.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. That was my advice as well.
Yeah.
The firm that we used was actually based on a recommendation from my accountant, who had other clients use this firm and were very successful. And that's what I would recommend. You know,
have you received your money yet? Not to be too personal.
Of course not.
Right. All right. So successful, maybe not. We don't know. We'll find out.
But okay. No, apparently, yeah. But they're reputable. Exactly.
One other piece of advice, please, 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 please do not pay in full the amount that they expect that you will owe.
Those are the scams. Exactly.
That's
what I want to warn everyone about.
I know. We did split the difference with them on that, but I have heard of folks paying upwards of $20,000 to get someone to file the paperwork for them. Please be mindful that you definitely, it needs to be an amount of money that you're comfortable losing, just in case.
Exactly. And that was my concern, because there really are. I mean, I get at least 2 to 3 emails a day about, companies that are wanting to file for me. And, some of them are for companies that I don't even own anymore. And just be really careful. There are your accountant, your bank. They will definitely know some reputable people that are doing this. So, all right, JB, do you want to introduce our guest? So I guess I didn't realize he was a classmate of yours.
He was.
That's very cool. Yeah.
A classmate and a neighbor. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So why don't we do it? Why don't you introduce our guest?
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you all the biographical data, like he was a Moorhead Scholar at UNC and he played football and baseball there. Boring statistics, like he went on to play for the NFL and he did participate in a particular year where the Rams won the Super Bowl. And I can tell you all those boring things, but probably the most impactful thing that ever happened to Mike was the class of 2007 UNC Dental School. Probably was the best thing that ever happened to him. I'm kidding. But he and I were classmates together. He went on. I was fortunate enough, and we'll talk a lot about his personal journey, to be a part of his family growing by leaps and bounds towards the end of our dental school career. Went back to his hometown to practice his dentistry. I think I can say football is a true passion and love for Mike. He had mentioned even early in our dental school career that he would love to go back and participate in the sport as a ref or doing other things with football. And then to watch him sort of achieve that passion and find the commitment and the time, frankly, to be able to watch that come true has been really cool as a classmate and friend to see that. But I have to share probably one of my fondest memories of Mike, and it's probably because I didn't die in this particular story. I know you don't even know what this is probably, right? But when one is about to die, one tends to remember the story pretty well. So Mike and I carpooled together for most of dental school. We rode with two of our other classmates. We'd all switch off. And we parked at this house kind of off the street from where the dental school was. And then to get to the dental school, we had to cross this large moving highway thing. And I was dabbling into getting into professional shoes, like dance goes. You know, everybody was starting to wear the dance goes, and I was dabbling in that. But the problem was I was also carrying a large backpack of books and crap, computer, whatever. So one unfortunate morning, I hit the curb at just the right angle that my dance goes got out from underneath me, and I went face first into Columbia Street. Now, if anyone's from UNC, they know that that's a fairly busy road, and it was like a turtle. You know, you got the big shell in the back, and it just sort of falls down. Mike literally grabbed me by the backpack. I think I couldn't see because my face was in asphalt, but it felt like he grabbed me by the backpack and put me back on the side of the curb, which was very fortunate as the cars were coming by. I had busted up my chin. And anyway, so thanks to Mike, I'm here today to introduce him on this podcast.
Oh, man.
Do you remember that?
I do kind of remember that. Oh,
yeah.
my gosh.
Well, it wasn't 6 months later that I did the same exact move in the pediatric hospital. You remember that thing, Mike, that had like the balls that were spinning around, and there was some kind of kaleidoscope thing in the middle of the pediatric hospital? Well, I bit it flat out in front of that thing because of the dumb dance goes and the backpack scenario. Again, that time Eric was with me, and Eric left me. He left me right there on the floor to figure it out. Yeah, of course he did. Anyway, Mike, thanks so much for spending some time with us and to carve out time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us for a little bit.
Heck yeah. Shoot. Cool. Thanks
for being here.
Can we talk a little bit about the young Mike growing up in Kannapolis? He's playing high school football. He's getting looked at. How does this go to get you to UNC, to get you to the, to get you to playing for a major D1 school?
That's a good question. So when I came back and started working, some of my former coaches from the high school team actually became patients, and we would have these discussions, and they're like, and one of them just finally said, he said, he said, when he was coaching me in 8th grade and then in high school where he was helping, he said, never would have seen it. And he was right. I said, hey, don't worry about it. I was a very late bloomer. I was really more of a baseball player. That was more where my strength was, and actually what I liked playing the most. I played football because my dad played college football, and it was kind of what was expected. But to put it in perspective, in the 7th grade, I played cornerback. And in our 8th grade year, I was a strong safety. So but between the 8th and 9th grade, when I stopped wrestling, I grew like 6 inches in like 3 months, and so went to the
we've all had that problem.
You get your height from your mom's family. That's all I can tell people. But went to the high school, which was it's still big in Kannapolis, but it's not what it was. The world's different. It's a different demographic of kids there, and my kids go to school where I went to school, so we're back here. And kind of it was just I was just in the right place at the right time. I was a pretty good tight end, a good pass catcher, but going into my junior year, I basically just kind of called passes periodically and most of them blocked. Well, they put me at linebacker because we had 2 kind of all-conference linebackers that were injured. And so I was just getting reps, practicing. And then the last game of the season, we were in a 3-way tie to get in first place. And it was, if we won, we were in. If we lost, it was going to be a coin toss. We were playing terrible. We were losing. So those guys were nicked up and dinged up. So they had took one of them out to kind of give them a break in case we played the next week. And so I got in somewhere in the third quarter and not even realizing it, I made like 15 tackles in a quarter and a half. Now, we were getting thumped, but I was not a violent hitter. I just tackled people, and everybody was stunned by it. So we fast forward the next year, we get a new coach who's kind of changed the offense around, opened it up, threw the ball a lot more, which helped me. And the one linebacker graduated, and the other guy ended up being academically ineligible. So I got to play by default. So somebody really famous and much smarter than me once said at some point, like, winning is 95% just showing up. So I was eligible to play, and I got to play. And I had played some defense as a JV guy, and I mean, I was decent. I was good. I never stood out. But then on that team, everything kind of came into place. So it was a phenomenal season. We won a state championship. That was 90. There was no 89 season, so there were no cell phones, no social media, anything like that. But I got recruited by several ACC schools and a couple SEC, and I really liked South Carolina, but my dad's pretty wise.
Good choice.
Said, "Hey, where do you think you're going to live your life and work?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, if you think you'll end up living in South Carolina," he said, "which is fine." He said, "You should go to South Carolina because that's going to carry the most weight. If you think you're going to live in North Carolina and raise family and work up here, you should probably go to a North Carolina school." And that's how things were then. It was a little different than now. But the decision maker was, however it happened, worked out. I did well at the Moorhead interviews, and I was offered a Moorhead award. And you just can't turn that down. And Carolina football was back-to-back 1-10 seasons then, and they were not what they would go on to be. But it worked out. But again, when I went there, I was not a great standout or anything. I kind of was maybe even questionably like underperformed or underachieved while I was there. But different, whatever happened. But it did work out, and I did get a chance to go play in the NFL. So
tell us about that. Tell us about that journey from playing ball at UNC to through. Did you participate in the combine? Tell us about that journey of going from ball to.
A lot of that is near misses for me. And I don't know if I how to explain it, but so like that senior year, I'd had a great junior year and really had a great bowl game. Had a wonderful spring practice, had a good summer training camp, and second weekend of the season, what we would call a practice All-American, dove over the pile in a drill and hit me in the knee, and I sprained my MCL. So I ended up playing the season with a knee injury, which slowed me down. I played okay, but not what I could have. I kind of get better than that, and I get invited to play in the Senior Bowl, and I had a really good game, and people were kind of taking notice. We go home, I start getting ready to go to the combine. I get the flu. So I don't work out very well at all. I was just sick and miserable. About a month later, we have our pro time day, which a lot of teams came to, and I worked out really well, ran really well. But it's like, gosh. So I ended up being a lower round draft pick by the Raiders. And things go well or whatever, and I get there and I'm doing well, and then I injure my ankle my rookie year and end up having to have surgery. So kind of one step forward, or two steps forward, one step back. Finally kind of break in and starting and doing well. And I break my hand. I get stepped on in a game, and the guy breaks it. So I'm playing one-handed with a big club. You know, I kind of.
And that's when you started thinking about dentistry, was when you had the broken hand, right?
No, I ended up that same season rupturing a disc in my back and had surgery, and it kind of really derailed my potential career. But going into my last season, the summer before, I had a toothache all of a sudden blow up, and it ended up being I'm embarrassed. I'm blanking on it. Pericoronitis at number 32. So I walk into the first dental office. I've got my insurance card, and I walk up. I grab a clipboard and I put it down. I don't give her a chance to say we're full. I said my jaw's hurting. I've got to see somebody. And I went and filled it all out, and I went back. And I didn't give her a chance. So the guy goes in. He numbs me up, cleans everything out. I've got to go to a mini camp the next day to a brand new team, and he goes. So he just had some stuff back in there. It got infected, inflamed, and all right, whatever. So I go, and I'd always kind of hung around with the team docs and stuff, and I was talking to some of them, and one of them had suggested, hey, if this doesn't work out, you don't get 10, 12, 13 years, instead of going to medical school, you should go to dental school. And my flippant remark at the time was like, dental school? Isn't that for the guys that can't get into medical school? And because my undergrad degree was targeted towards going to medical school. And they're like, no, man. And they kind of sat me down and explained a lot of stuff. So then unexpectedly, my career ends after 2001. And I'm trying to think, what am I going to do? And so I remembered the dental school comment. So I went and talked to some local dentists, and they just kind of showed me some things and what to do. And I was always a good standardized test taker, and I did okay on the DAT, and got an interview on the last interview, and it went well. But I had a lot of support. I mean, having been a UNC grad and played and all that good stuff, and helped. And so I got in, and then I got to meet JB, as you call her. That's a new one, and a bunch of other people. It's outstanding people, and it was a great experience for me. So, yeah. Can't hear you.
JB, you're muted.
It was an echo earlier. Sorry. We were really fortunate. It was a great class, and we were really fortunate. It was just a little bit older than the traditional, like our average age was a little bit older. And it actually created this incredibly cool, like non-competitive, everybody was, I'll say 90%, was super encouraging. The goal was to be a GP and get out and do the best dentistry you could, not to like step on one another to get to certain specialties. And so there really was a great group of individuals that actually are still really great GPs today that are out there practicing. But Mike, I've been thinking about you, watching you do these games on the weekends, and you were doing college even before that, and thinking, okay, so how is he practicing on Monday morning? Like, give us some insight into what the balance has looked like for you and for Alana and with the kids as you're sort of balancing these two professions now, really.
Okay, so my dad, when I was a kid, had been a high school football official, and he did that for a number of years till the Highway Patrol made him pick football officiating or the Highway Patrol. So when we were in dental school, he had said, hey, you should look at football officiating. And I was just like, man, I hate those guys. All they did was call bullcrap on me and wouldn't call stuff. And so fast forward to that last year, my best friend from the Raiders, a guy named Rob Holmberg, we're still pretty tight. And he called me somewhere around February of 2007. So Elena's kind of recovering from bed rest. She had delivered the quads the day before our live patient dental exam. And
I totally remember all this.
Oh, so man, it's just this dark time in life.
I know.
Great time, but but the kids were still in the hospital. And the league at the time, that's what we call the NFL, the league, was looking for former players to get involved in officiating. And they paid for a 3-day trip down to Orlando, where the World League training camp was, before they flew to Europe and started playing their seasons there. And I wasn't going to go. And she's like, why don't you go? It's a free trip. You get to see Rob and a bunch of other guys, and you're getting ready to come home and graduate and open up, and the kids are not going to be like, you should go. So I went, and it's great seeing guys. And, I sat in the meetings that first day listening to it and everything. I was like, this is cool, but this is probably not for me, because I'm like, look at the kids. And the next day we went out on the field, and I was hooked. I was like, and I was fired up about it. So I'm like, okay. So came home, we graduated, moved home. I fall practice. A guy had been his dad's practice and his, and he retired. He was 70 at the time. It was really slow paced, but at the time, for me to see 4 or 5 actual patients in a day and check 4 or 5 hygiene patients seemed kind of overwhelming at first. But, well, you see 2 patients a day in dental school, and that's it.
That's exactly right.
And but it went fine. I had the staff that was there was great, and most of them are actually still with me. So
that's great.
I got into that, became my thing, was refereeing. I started doing middle school, high school, JV varsity based football, and that became kind of what I got to do. And some guys in the Charlotte area were college officials. They said, hey, you need to start coming to college rule meetings, and they kind of sucked you up. Now, don't get me wrong, my goal had been to get the NFL. I was like, oh, this would be awesome and great. Not knowing that the odds were really not good. But they were looking for former players. And it just, over the years, it progressed, and I got sucked up to the next level by guys ahead of me, is really what it amounts to. And then I was put in the NFL's training list. I got to work a preseason game. But then it looked like I was going to be too old. And, my window had closed. And then it changed, and I got the call last year. I worked in the USFL, the XFL before that, and then COVID shut it down, and that Alliance of American Football the year before that. And just, hey, they decided to give me a job, give me an opportunity. So, which was kind of interesting, because when I started officiating, the kids were all small, weren't playing a lot of sports. But I gave up things like golf and stuff. My dad had another great piece of wisdom when I was talking to him about, should I go into college football? And he said, look, your kids and family will understand if you're not home because you're working. Mm-hmm. What they won't understand or forgive is if when you're home, you choose to go do golf or do something instead of spend time with them. So I gave up everything else. I have coached all my kids' teams, or been there to watch, sometimes to their dismay. And it's just it revolves. I go to work. So now, currently being in the NFL, so I'm a volunteer coach at the high school for football, and I've been the middle school baseball coach the last 4 years, just kind of filling in. They just needed people. So during the season.
Wait, you know what this means?
Time.
You know what this means, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Talking too much.
I think, yeah. No. Not at all.
I thought you. Okay.
Means that it went through my ADD brain. Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
So here's the question that I have for you, because we're moving on to the ref thing, which I want to hear all about, but I still got to take a step back to Super Bowl 34, right? So.
Sure.
You were on the team at this point. Did you actually get to go to Super Bowl 34?
Yeah. So everybody. I mean, there's a roster that dresses. At the time, it was the 53-man roster, and those guys dress. Then there were 4 or 5 practice squad guys. But everybody traveled, got to go. The Rams were a great organization. Everybody got tickets. The whole team staff got rings. I mean, they really did a great job. And I played in the game. I played all special teams, and I was on some defensive packages. I didn't really get a lot of play on those during the game. This is how that game worked out. And it was it's ironic. It was in Atlanta, and having been in the ACC, we went down there and played a lot because of Georgia Tech, and then we played a bowl game down there. And a couple times while I was playing my career, we were in Atlanta, and I had never lost a game in Atlanta. From playing college ball to bowl games to professionally playing, and then play the Super Bowl there.
Because professional athletes are not superstitious at all.
No. Yeah, and so like my typical in-season week is I get up Monday, I work out. Now the kids have licenses, so I don't. But Alana did most of the driving to school then, so I'll work out. I'll go to work. We'll stop at 3:00. I just work through lunch, and then I go to high school and I'll help coach. We'll get through 5:45. Then we usually, but the girls play volleyball and one cheers, and youngest boy plays football. So we're there. We're involved with the kids. Usually, then there's a volleyball, match something going on. So we get home. I've got to get stuff done for the NFL. Tuesday's the same as Monday, and then there'll be some grading stuff that I have to interact with the NFL on my performance and our crew's performance. Wednesday is kind of the same. Thursday will be the same, except that we'll go and help coach the JV football game. Friday, I don't usually work. Just, I guess, the typical single dentist thing, but more of just people don't really want to come in. None of my staff really want to work. And I'm tired. My neck, I've got some spine issues like everybody. And it's just like, hey, I need a break too. So Friday night football, we'll coach that. Friday's kind of my work around the house DIY day. And then Saturday, will typically be a travel day to get to the city of the game, or the day before the game, and then get to be around a great group of guys on my crew. We'll have a pregame meeting, get ready. But we've been watching film all week. There's training tapes, grading, and you do your own film study as well. And work the game on Sunday, and then usually it's got to get changed, got paperwork for the post game stuff done to get sent to the office, and then get to the airport and catch a flight back home, and then get up and start Monday again. So, but I mean, it's busy, it's hectic, but I enjoy every bit of it. I'm not doing anything I don't want to do. So there's no drudgery.
One more question.
Sure.
Yeah, one more question. Just going back to because I do want to hear more about the reffing side as well. But one more question is, so Super Bowl 34, Christina Aguilera is the performer. How hot was she? I think that's what everybody wants to know, JB. This is what everybody is asking.
I don't think they do.
I think this is exactly what is blowing up on our Facebook page right now. Yeah.
Is it?
I don't think she was ours.
Chad just texted. It's 2:30 in the morning. He is. I texted that in.
That doesn't sound right. Alana would know because she actually watched it. I was in the locker room.
Why?
So,
yeah. We'll have to get Alana. We got to talk to Alana. We need to know.
Well, she's at Jesse's baseball game right now.
Yeah, right. She's out there doing the Lord's work right now.
And but I don't think that's right. She wasn't the. Was she the halftime?
Now we're gonna have to look it up.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, Mike Brian
that has
is also
nothing
watching.
to do with this conversation.
Brian is also watching, and he has two questions for you. One serious, one not so serious. The first one was, who can bench press more, you or or Ed Hockley?
Well, so when you get to this level of stuff, one, now Ed's, he's been retired. He's probably pushing 70 now.
Yeah.
But I'm at the weight range where you don't do 1 rep maxes. You do 225 for the maximum number of reps. That's kind of how the NFL stuff does. They don't want anybody blowing the shoulder out.
Yeah.
So they have you however many times you can do 225 and for reps, and then they extrapolate, oh, well, this is that. So, one of the best I've ever seen was like 45 reps.
Holy cow.
Yeah, the most I ever did when I was really trying to do it was like 35 reps. So
that's still awesome. His real question, like, what kind of tapes are you watching pregame? Are you watching the other team's tapes? Are you watching your own performance and critiquing that for adjustments on gameplay and calling?
I don't know how much that's
Or are you deciding who you need to really
Oh,
watch?
you don't. I mean, if you can't talk about it, that's totally fine.
Well, I'll just say something generic. So there are, we get graded every play.
Right.
People don't realize that. And so there's an evaluation process for every play. And there is some give and take on what the grade will ask you questions. What were you looking at? Why'd you do this? Why didn't you do that? So there's a little bit of that. And then they'll make a final decision on your grade for the game. There are training tapes where you can go and look at this is what the parameters they want us to work within for whatever subject. And then people will do their own. Everybody has, some guys won't watch hardly any film of the two teams are going to work because they don't want to bias themselves. Other guys will watch everything. They'll look up every bit of information that they can find, whether it's official or something about players. And so they feel like they're ready to work a game with those guys doing whatever. And then people fall in the middle. So when we get to Saturday, I mean, there's logistics stuff. There are training tapes that are put out each week for the officials to address stuff that may come up or whatever, because it is a league. There's an owners committee, and this is their league, and there's stuff that we try to, they give us the parameters to operate within. And a lot of it is we don't go over stuff in the previous week. We do that during the week, so we kind of wrap everything up, put that to bed. So a lot of what we'll do is we just watch football. There'll be Saturday games on, and we'll what's supposed to be a certain amount of time meeting. We always get them to start early watching college football. But, hey, how do we handle that? How would we do that? Well, what if that happened? What would we do? The best lesson is other people do stuff and either do it well or not do it well. And there's just a group of football teams. So.
The one thing that strikes me, well, actually two things. One, I'd love to know your feeling about the balance between, like, there's a lot of dentists out there, particularly after COVID, that are feeling a lot of burnout. That the job is hard and stressful, and you get beat up by patients a fair amount, and the physical ailments that come with that as well. And I'm curious if you're finding we'll call it a side hustle, but your other profession outside of dentistry, is that creating like a really good balance for you to not let one thing get too out of whack or get too serious? And then the other piece of that is, I think for most dentists, the reality of being graded on every play is actually very scary. If you thought about, your professor coming back from dental school and sitting with you chairside on every filling that you did and every crown to say, Mike, you really could have broken that contact a little bit better. You really could have beveled that just a hair more for, how do you reconcile that type of feedback on a regular basis?
All right, so there's two answers to that. One, having played somewhat, high school sports, and you were an athlete, but when you get to college, you get introduced to that. There's accountability on every play, whether you agree with it or not. So it kind of starts to become what you're used to. And then as a player in the NFL, every play is graded. So it's just the realities of what you're doing. And this happened, in high school, there's usually an observer, and now they can't see everything, and they're doing it while everything's happened. But some of those guys are pretty sharp. They catch the train wrecks, and a lot of people don't even realize happen. But depending on the crew, if you're excellent in the easy things and you just look calm and smooth, people don't realize that. Oh man, they're like, what the heck's going on? So, poise and but the dental school thing, and I think you asked, and that's how I balance it. I mean, dentistry is my first and primary career. It's what supports us. But when I leave, I leave. I'm not heavily involved in organizations. I don't do travel CE. I like what I do, but there's just other stuff I want to spend my time with when I'm outside the office, and that's a choice I make. So have I built empires and done? No, and that's not me, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I didn't choose to do that. So I don't have necessarily the burnout, just grinding, pushing, and pumping. I've got to do this today, do this every week, every month. I just it's not my focus, and it's not how I'm put together. So I think that has helped me just kind of weather going along. I like doing stuff with my kids, being involved. I refereed the Powder Puff football game last night, and the most complaints came from two of my daughters. So it's yeah. It's just I still do my job. I'm not kidding you. I'm doing stuff, and I'm like, well, would you turn that grade against us? I'm like, I wouldn't like it. I just do it. And so that's in the back of my head. Somebody's standing on my shoulder looking at what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
6 years later, I'm like that. So, yeah.
So I've got a question for you, because as dentists, we let a lot of things weigh heavy on us, and one of the things we always talk about on Dentists in the Know is our failures, right? Like, we all have them. It's just part of what we do. Stuff goes wrong. Things don't always go the way we thought. Our diagnosis wasn't always correct. Things go wrong. Have you ever found yourself holding on to like a bad call for the rest of the week? Like, I mean, a bad call, you take it back with you. It didn't get reviewed. And you're like, you know what? I may have had an impact on that game that I really didn't want to have. Is that something that you carry with you? Because I know in dentistry, we tend to carry those things with us. So I'm curious about that.
In the immediate aftermath, future days, week or two, yeah, because like, I'm better than that, but I can still remember mistakes I made 15 years ago when I started officiating. I'm like, how did you screw that up? But at least officiating and in life, you're going to make mistakes. The goal is don't repeat mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the same way I've operated in dentistry. I'm not perfect. I'm certainly not. And probably dealing with people is probably the weakest area for me at times. And failures there, my fault or nobody's fault or the patient's fault, still failures. Those hang with me more in dentistry than technical stuff, because I guess because I am blunt at times, and sometimes I do just like, all right, I get exasperated with someone, or a lot of times it's myself I'm not achieving what I want, and it has cost me. And as I've grown and matured, hopefully that's improved. My staff says it has, but yeah, when someone just, whether they're right or wrong, just leaves and goes away, that actually bothers me more than technical stuff, because something technical, you can redo it, you can do it over. Fortunately, I don't think I've had anything catastrophic that couldn't be addressed and fixed.
Mm-hmm.
The failure in, quote, the provider-patient relationship, that probably sticks with me more. And some of them, like I said, shouldn't bother me. Like, those people were, this is from my staff, like, oh, that person's crazy, don't worry about them going. And I do, I have a little different practice. We take fee for service, we take insurance, we take Medicaid. I have military people. I have a lot of retirees from the cotton mill, fixed income. So it's not necessarily a typical practice, but that's what you get where I live. So, and that's my choice, and I'm fine with it. So, Yes, the failed relationships that probably bother me more. And as far as officiating, yeah, like I said, there's calls I made working high school games. There's 2 or 3 of them. I'm like, God, I can't believe I screwed that up. But you have to accept, you're going to make mistakes. The goal is just not repeat them.
That's awesome. I appreciate you you sharing that, because I really think, I mean, to already be in a career that is so laden with the opportunity for failure. I mean, we all see it on a regular basis. I mean, not it's just part of what we do. And then to seek out another career where it's inevitable that you are going to make a mistake at some point, it's impossible not to. It just
I
it does a
know
lot about your character. You can absorb that.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. A lot of it's the challenge, though. I mean, I'm not one to sit around. I'm always doing something, DIY or coaching or officiating or dentistry and it's the challenge. It's high stress, but you like it. I mean, it's like, hey, you're alive. There's a phrase from Shawshank Redemption that I think is awesome: get busy living or get busy dying. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I want to make the most. I don't want to look back and have regrets. Kind of going through my early career playing stuff that I look back and like, if I'd have handled that better, if I'd have done that different, things could have been astronomically different. And um, regret. So I want to avoid at least regret of, I wish I'd have done more. I wish I'd have tried this or done that. And so while I'm able to do stuff, I want to do it. And that's just kind of where I am. I mean, I wasn't always that way. You develop this as you grow in life and experience things. And, so, but I got to say this. I had a tremendous amount of help of guys who were officials at various levels. I'm back in my hometown, so that made it easier. Both our parents, Alana and I have been together since high school, and she's 5 foot nothing, but she's a pretty solid rock. And her being on board and letting me leave and shut down for a Thursday to drive to nowhere, West Virginia, to work a Thursday night game, and then drive halfway back, sleep at one of the officials' house for 3 hours, and then get home Friday and go into work for $165. It's just like, you're a moron. What are you doing? I said, it's just the price that has to be paid to get there. And but without her support and just great kids and family and friends, like none of this stuff happens. Um, so yeah, I can't stress that enough that nobody does anything successful on their own. I don't care what it is. That's been from looking at the richest people in the world to the guy over here that runs a really successful small business. He has a lot of people supporting, and as an official, as for me personally, Alana has just been solid there. And like I said, we've been together a long time.
Well, we appreciate you tonight. We are out of time. Excuse me. This went by pretty quickly.
Well, I don't struggle with words.
I have nothing to say about that.
Well, the truth
I'm
is
kidding. Well, one thing we did not touch on at all is the fact that he and Elena have 5 kids, 4 of which were born our last semester of dental school, right around the time that we were taking live patient boards. Was a cool experience, at least for your classmates, to also participate and sort of be a little bit of a part of your family for a short period of time.
And I would like to say something about that. So those guys, particularly Jennifer, Chad, and Stephanie, the 4 of us carpooled. We lived in the same neighborhood. They helped us so much with the kids when they started coming home. Lena was hot on bed rest at the hospital for a couple months, and I had our oldest son, Trey. And so many people went out of their way just to help us. And then the day of the live exam, I could have taken a pass, but like they were helping find my pay. My one patient didn't show, so man, I got behind. But people are going around dental school calling this lady's name. But it just so many people just went out of their way when they didn't have to do anything and just helped out. And it's just so humbling that people will do that. And it just, it's awesome to see it and be the recipient of it. And I probably never did thank you guys for that enough, but it meant the world to me and to Alana. So, and Trey, I was talking with him a little bit ago. He does remember you guys.
Are you kidding?
No.
He was so little,
Yeah.
but I remember his age and his birthday because it's right around the same time as my oldest nephew. And they're just a few days apart. And so it's kind of cool when I see my oldest nephew Holden sort of achieving things and graduating and doing all the fun stuff. I'm like, oh, Trey's doing the exact same stuff. And, and he was such a great, great kid. So it's great to see you successful, Mike. And it's great to see your family together as a wonderful unit and watching them grow up. I see it online, but it's still a beautiful thing. I was connecting with Alana not that long ago, and I was like, it's so great to see how great the kids have thrived and survived and grown up to be healthy, happy humans. And that's all any of us could want for our children. So thank you for spending the evening with us and taking time out of your very busy schedule. Please send my best to Alana. I'm sure if Jeff knew her, he would say the same. And thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Hey, Mike, we appreciate it so much. Have a great night, and thank you for joining us.
Sure, man. Y'all have a good one.
Podcast and YouTube, if you listen to us there and you've just listened to this great interview with Mike, be sure to rate and review. We would really appreciate the feedback and share that with your friends. And then also on YouTube as well. We're gaining a lot of traction in both areas. And honestly, Jeff, we have some really fun stuff coming up in the summer and fall for Dinks. So hopefully folks will stick around because there's some really good stuff coming.
Oh, that's great. And I apologize. I do think I'm having some connection issues. And I will talk to you about that after. But all of you, thank you for being with us. Thank you for seeing the value in Dentists in the Know. And we hope you all have a really great weekend. And we'll see you next Wednesday. JB,
have a great night, guys.
All of you, good night. And that wraps up another podcast for Dentists in the Know. On behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and myself, remember that we've got a great profession, so let's make it a great day, Dinks.